Good morning, everyone. My name is Dean Brouder. I'm the Drug and Alcohol Resource Coordinator for Methuen Public Schools. Welcome. Today is October 26th, 2015, and our second guest in a series of drug prevention talks with Let's Talk with Dean Brouder. Today's guest is Chuck Rosa from Seabrook Beach, New Hampshire. He has a story, a very powerful, dynamic story that no parent wants to have to go through. And I appreciate very much, Chuck, you coming on and sharing your story about your experience with your sons. Absolutely. You know, the first question when we're trying to educate parents is, you know, how does something like this happen? And sometimes they want a very complex psychological exploration. Could you explain at the beginning with your sons as they became teenagers, what was going on at home? What was it like to grow up in your house?
Well, I had 6 children. I only have 4 now because I lost my 2 oldest sons, Dominic and Vincent, due to accidental drug overdoses. I almost lost a 3rd son. His name is Charles. He's been clean and sober for almost 7 years now, and I have 3 more. But how was it growing up? I'd like to say we were, we were functional. Like everybody, some dysfunction.
Sure.
I worked a factory. Family-owned factory for almost 27 years. First time I caught them, we had got out of work early one day, and I come home early from work because we got out of work early, and my son Vincent was getting sick in the bathroom, and I asked Dominic, I said, why is Vin getting sick? And he said that they were drinking vodka down at the bus stop with their friend. His name was Jared. I remember it was like yesterday, and you know, I did all the things that I knew to do as a young parent. You know, I punished them and yelled at them and grounded them and all that. But and they used to say, "Papa, don't worry, I'll never try nothing else. That other stuff is for losers." You know, 'cause I caught them. I could smell pot on them a couple of times also, and they would be good for 6 months, and then 6 more months would go by, and they'd be dabbling in it, and so forth and so on. And to fast forward it a little bit, they got to the point where they tried. They were experimenting with other things, and I got a phone call one night. It was about it was like 1 in the morning, and it was a Salem hospital saying that my son Vincent was unresponsive, and I thought that I knew what it meant, but I just figured he'd been in a car accident and
Sure.
he's gonna have a broken arm or something, and I'm gonna yell at him for not putting his seatbelt on or something. And I got to the hospital and I told them who I was, and they told me go down here, go down there, but you can't go in this room. And fast forward a little more is I went into this room, and there was a young lady in a chair as a nurse, probably about 5 or 6 feet away, but I could see my son on a table, which was about 15 feet away, with his arms folded with the tube coming out of his mouth. And I says, how's my son Vincent doing? I'm his father. And she didn't answer me. And then I asked her again, and she just kind of looking at me, and I said, what's going on here? And she said, they didn't tell you? And I said, tell me what? And she said, he's dead. And I go, no, he's not. And I went over to him, and I shook him for what seemed like 10 minutes, but it was probably 5 or 10 seconds, and he won't wake up. And he broke my heart that day. And about 9 months go by, and my son Dominic was doing well, but he had a bad moment. One of his friends from, doesn't matter what, Wilmington called him, and he relapsed. And when your body isn't used to doing what it was doing before, it's a prime time to relapse. And I got a call from the Winchester Hospital, and they told me he had expired, which, I think that he lived with a lot of guilt that maybe it should have been him, because he was a little more risky. Vincent died the first time he tried. It was a fentanyl patch at a party. It wasn't the first time he did drugs. He would be on for 6 months, and then he tried to handle it. In my opinion, inevitably it will handle you. And they they stubborned themselves into an early grave, both of them. And my third son, I think that he told me years later that he, after he got clean, he said that he did it for his mother. You know, he didn't want to put his mother through that. And I have 3 more that I don't worry about. You'd think I'd be not worrying about them, but they watched their heroes, their brothers, get put into a box when they were, I think, 10 or so. My daughter was like 12. So that's kind of the story in a nutshell.
That's
and for the past 10 years, I've been going to schools and talking about the danger of drugs and alcohol, and I do a lot of the schools on the Seacoast, some in Massachusetts. And
When Vincent was the first one, how old were your 2 boys? And I know it happened in a relatively quick span.
Yeah.
So how old was Vincent when
they started or when they passed away?
Well, both. You can go.
They were about 14, 15. Dominic would have been 15, Vincent 14, somewhere around there when they started. And like I said, it would start and stop. This went on for years, but they passed away when they were 20 and 21 years old.
20 and 21 years old. They start when they're 14 and 15. You have the parent conversation about the weed, about marijuana. No, Dad, I'm never going to cross the line. I'm never going to go there. I've had the same conversation with my son. He also went over there. Thank God he's in early recovery, but there were many nights that I went to bed fearful that I would get that call.
Right.
So you had Vincent pass away. Dominic knows what's going on. What happened to the family? I know that's a stupid question, but
no, it's not a
how
stupid question.
How did the family react? Did they react differently? I know you had younger children, but Dominic, I'm very interested in because he was so closely, in age to him. What was that like? Were there promises made right after that death that, Dad, I don't want you to worry, I won't choose to go?
Honestly, I don't. I don't remember the conversations.
Remember,
I mean, I remember things that were said. He was in trouble with the courts, and he had gone to a treatment center out in Long Beach, Newfound Life out in Long Beach, California. Was doing really well out there. He was running one of the houses, but he left when he thought that he was all set, and I don't want to be long-winded, but didn't follow the program. Stopped going to meetings. He says, "Dad, I got this. I can do this," and you have to have structure, whether you're an addict or not, and that's my own opinion anyway. And like I said, I don't even know if it's a word, but he stubborned himself into an early grave. He said, I'm gonna be the one that can do this and still function. And when I do my presentations, I tell the students, or whether it's adults or students, there isn't anybody walking this planet that can look you in the eye and say that I use alcohol and or drugs, even socially, and I've never had anything that I resent doing, whether it was saying something to hurt somebody's feelings that you wouldn't have said, or waking up with a sick stomach or something like that. So he tried to control it, and those are minor things. You say something wrong and you back into a car, but my sons paid the ultimate price. They ended up in a box. But like I say to the students, the young adults, that if you haven't tried it, don't, and if you have, get it together before it's too late, because nothing good's going to come out of it.
The arrogance of youth, they think it's never going to happen to them. One thing leads to another. When I grew up at the beach, I grew up at the same beach that you go every day. I'm sure you'll tell us. You still live at the beach?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we grew up, and we're down there, and there was a lot of situations that, as a young man, we got involved in, and it's devastating effect. I think even Seabrook now, they just recently had something like 10 overdoses.
Yeah, I've been going to a lot of wakes up there.
Too many, right? Everyone is too many. This was a while ago. This was how long ago? Before the epidemic exploded.
Yeah.
This was how long now?
About 10 years, yeah.
10 years.
Yeah.
So this was before all of the exposure, because now schools are changing, schools are having more programs.
Right.
When we started our program 6 years ago, the youth survey, it wasn't a reaction to the epidemic because it hadn't happened yet. It was a reaction to the survey from our youth that said, we're engaging in at-risk behaviors.
Sure.
And then the school said, we better do something. And initially, yeah, we were really proud of this
proactive,
school. Yeah, proactive.
Yeah.
What we see today in the Merrimack Valley, as well as the seacoast across the country, is this epidemic. For the last 10 years, pretty much, in order to keep your own sanity, or to keep, every day you talk about drugs, every day you talk about recovery, every day you remember your children. How do you, I know it's a stupid question, but how do you do it? How do you do it?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. I do it when I start my presentations at schools. I tell them that I'm here as much for myself as I am for you, because if I wasn't doing the right thing, I'd be doing the wrong thing. I was at a point in my life where I was going to take care of this myself, but I wouldn't be able to be doing the work I do if I was locked up for getting rid of a couple of drug dealers, because I explained to the people that there's always going to be a drug dealer and there's always going to be a liquor store in every corner. It's the choices that they make. I don't mean to lecture you about it, but you asked me how I do it. I like to think that, and I see kids, I call them young adults, regularly, that I've been to their school and they tell me, I still have your dog tag that you gave me 6 years ago. I have it on my mirror. I give them a dog tag if they make a pledge to stay clean and sober at the end of the presentation. I tell them, your word's one of the only things that nobody can take from you, and it's my way of hoping and thinking that my sons didn't pass away in vain, that something good has come out of it. I've spoken to, probably 50,000, people, students so far, and you just hope that they listen, and I again, for myself, I feel like we're making a difference. We do parent workshops. I've been doing a parent support group. I speak to elementary, middle school, high school. I was at a college in Lynn last week, and I do a lot of community service with people in the drug court up there to empower them. We cook for the community table and stuff. We're a small speck of sand on the beach, but we're out there plugging away every day, and I've learned to take the small victories, because I have a lot of people that I work with that have done community service. Even recently, I buried a girl and a young man just within the last couple of weeks that was talking to like we're talking, and they relapsed, and they're dead. But I get, some, not that I need a pat in the back, but we get a lot of feedback saying some really nice things and phone calls, and it lets me know that we are making a difference, because sometimes if you think about what's going on, you say, what the heck am I doing? It's an exercise. Yeah, it's an exercise. It's an exercise in futility. But I've learned to take the small miracles, and we do have. I hope it doesn't sound corny, but we do have like small miracles happen almost several times a week. I'll say that. So I'm blessed to be able to do the work that we do and help the people we can help.
Yeah, and you mentioned speaking to parents. That's one area that we're always trying to expand. It's not easy to get parents to come out.
No, it's not.
It's not at all. They either are afraid of it, or they think their children won't get involved, or if they're doing their own stuff that they're not too proud of.
Yeah.
That's why I'm glad you're going to meet Phil Leahy and the community group here. He has a support group for parents who are going through hell, basically.
Yeah.
And his daughter is in recovery, and he's dedicated his whole last chapter of his life to it.
Wow. Well, I feel like, I feel like that if I was better educated as a parent and my boys were better educated, that maybe they'd be here. Yeah, I do blame myself, but I do remind myself, just like when I speak, that the choices that they make, they're your choices. I can be the greatest parent in the world, or I can be a bum, but the way they turn out is the choices that they make. But I do feel like if I thought it was a phase they was going through that was going to pass, and never did, and I know that they had education. I'm not blaming the schools, but they might have a police officer come in for a day or two,
Yeah.
or a guy like me. We all have a part, but it really needs to be, a program at every level, at every grade, consistently, a couple of times a week for 20, 30 minutes.
Yep.
And so by the time that they get offered this stuff, you got to teach them that this stuff is poison.
Yeah,
That
you're right.
and then they're going to say, why would I do that?
Yeah.
And I really believe that, even though you didn't ask me, education is the
Yeah.
answer. Knowledge is power, and that's really where it needs to start. I believe recovery works. I get all that, but
Before.
you don't want to get into if you don't want to get into if you don't want to get into the fight, then
Don't go in the ring.
Don't go
Yeah.
in.
Tomorrow, Chuck, we're going to have about 90 freshmen. They've signed contracts. We're going to have the breakfast down here in the cafe about 8:15, and we're going to tell them, the superintendent's going to be here, the chief of police, the SAD advisor, myself, Mr. Osgood in charge of the wellness program, that, we appreciate what you do. You're signing this contract to remain drug-free, whether they will or not, we don't know.
Yeah.
But we're acknowledging that you've taken that time to sign that contract, and we support you, and we want to tell you that face to face.
That's good. That's kind of the same thing I
yeah,
do. It's a little bit of a different,
yeah.
Same thing.
But and I go down to the grammar school every day. I go to a different grammar school,
Oh, yeah?
trying
Wow.
to get the word out, and it's slow. It takes time. We have a whole referral system because we're trying to get the kids before they pick up their first drug, before they start to fall apart, and also try to offer support to the parents who we know are having problems. And it's very difficult because the school systems traditionally have not ever done this, but. We're seeing a whole shift as far as the state of Massachusetts anyway. There's this big mental health grant where we're trying to shift. So much of the school's attention has been focused on test scores and everything, and very little on the psychosocial, emotional part of students that hopefully you'll see more being done at an earlier age. So we're gonna be wrapping up pretty soon. Chucky's Fight. Tell us about it. What do you do? Tell us about the foundation.
Well, I started about I think it was 8 years ago. We're a 501c3 nonprofit up in Seabrook, New Hampshire, and I go to schools and do presentations on the dangers of drugs and alcohol. I tell my story. It's mostly question and answer. I'm not here to scare them or to lecture them. What I've done right and wrong as a parent, and at the end of the presentation, they're given the opportunity to make a pledge, and they're given a dog tag that looks like this, and it's to remind them to make healthy choices if they're willing to make that pledge. And I think we've done well with it. I go in the ocean every day, 365 days. My son's ashes are in the ocean, just in a pair of shorts, to be close to them, and I say a prayer down at the beach and ask them to give me the strength to be clean and sober today, and to give me the courage to go to the schools and speak and work with the community service people that are struggling. And that's what I do when we've people raise money if they come in the ocean when it's like wind chill is 20 below
It has to
zero
be
or
really
something.
cold, right?
Yeah. But I mean, so we always looking for people to come in and join us on my morning dip, and again, I'm blessed to be able to and honored to be able to help the people we help. And we do a lot of placements too, when people looking for help, that are trying to recover it. It's tough because there's not a lot of help up in New Hampshire. So we do what we can do, and that's it. That's what Chucky's Fight is about. And I get a lot of support from local people and volunteers. And my wife Mary has been a huge help. She does all the work, and I'm just out in the street doing what I do. And my son's also Charles. He's a UFC fighter, and my son's Vincent. I'm sorry, I still call them.
Yeah.
Francis and Lucas, Teresa, they all help, and things are okay.
Yeah.
We're getting by.
Well, thank you very much for
Well,
coming on
thanks for
and
having
sharing
me.
that,
Yeah.
the painful experience. We appreciate it very much, and
All right.
maybe we can have you back up here to
I-
talk to
I-
staff or to family. or to
I'd love to come to the
students.
school and do
Yeah.
a presentation,
Yeah.
even in a health class.
Sure.
I'd love to come in and
We'll do it.
We'll go from there.
We'll do
I
it.
can make a difference.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Chuck, Rosa, for coming on to our show. And please talk to your children. We have a website here at Methuen Public Schools. We're trying to reach out, help someone else, do the next right thing, and please, try to look out for each other. Thanks so much for coming today.